everyone, welcome back to The Dragonettes Are Coming. Today I will be releasing the long-awaited, oh yeah, I only have 3 subscribers, part 2 of What If the NightWings Were Extinct Before the Great War Began. Princess Anemone had been used to her mother adoring her and giving her constant attention. Anemone would do anything for the attention she craved. She could do anything for the attention she craved. Anemone was an animist, a sorceress. She could become queen. She could kill Blister and all her evil sandwings that sought to manipulate the Sea-Wing tribe. But was that right? Was it right to use your magic for power and attention? Blister and Anemone's mother, Queen Coral, wanted to use her magic to do terrible things. If she stopped following their orders and used her magic to seek power for herself, would that necessarily be better than if Blister used Anemone's magic? Her brother Turtle, who was also an animist, said no, that she wouldn't be any better than Blister or her mother if she used her magic for power. See, Anemone, we already have this great plan to stop the Sea-Wings from being used as puppets by Blister and her Sandwings. Was there any animist magic involved? No. We don't yet know if your plan is going to work, Anemone hissed. Her brother Turtle was the exact opposite of her. He was constantly afraid of his magic. Turtle, unlike Anemone, wanted the Sea-Wing tribe to have freedom from Blister and the Sandwings. But he'd formulated this whole complex plot where they go to their Uncle Shark and convince him to pull his troops out of the war. There were so many ways that could go wrong. A, their Uncle Shark might just flat out refuse their decision. B, if Uncle Shark agreed to pull his troops out of the war, Mother would just replace him. And C, if Mother miraculously agreed to their plan, Blister would find some way to force the Sea-Wings to rejoin her side of the war. Anemone was mostly helping Turtle with his plan because it had a generally good intention and was supposedly better than using their animist magic uncontrollably. Only one way to find out, Turtle said. He strolled over to the door of her quarters and opened it for her. After you. I still think this plan is idiotic, Anemone hissed at him before strolling out the door. Look on the bright side, Turtle said. At least I have good intentions. At least we can agree on that, Anemone replied. Turtle seemed to be nicer than most of her brothers. One time when her mother wasn't looking, Anemone had snuck into her brother's quarters in the Deep Palace to see what they were doing. They had been roughhousing and yelling at each other. At least, she thought they were yelling at each other. The Sea-Wings had this secret underwater language called aquatic that involved flashing the bioluminescent stripes along their backs. They used this when they were in the Deep Palace, 300 feet below the surface. Anemone had always preferred spending her time in the Fantasyland Palace, the Summer Palace. Because of this, Anemone had never fully learned how to properly use or interpret aquatic. However, she could tell from how bright the brothers' flashes were that they were speaking roughly. Anemone remembered that at the back of the room had been a 4-year-old dragonette sitting in the corner of the room, looking gloomy. It had seemed like the brothers were just ignoring him, acting like he didn't exist. That brother had probably been Turtle. He'd had the same handbag as Turtle, and the same color scales. Turtle, Anemone started casually as they were walking down the hallway toward Shark's quarters. How is your relationship with your brothers? Turtle said, I really don't want to talk about it. But, to summarize, it was before you were born. The dragon guarding the royal hatchery was seriously ill. I was supposed to find his replacement quickly so that he wouldn't die on the job. But I failed. My brothers never forgave me for that. Your older sister was killed by an assassin before she could hatch. Anemone had never thought about why she was her mother's only daughter. She knew that all of her sisters had died in frightful accidents, and there had been rumors about an assassin, but this seemingly harmless brother was the reason her sister was dead. Anemone wasn't sure how she felt about that. It was Turtle's fault that she'd been in the spotlight her whole life. The only daughter, the perfect daughter, the magical daughter, both literally and figuratively. Being the only daughter had brought her positive and negative attention. On the plus side, everyone waited on her. On the minus side, she attracted attention from Blister, who was basically the scum of the earth. I know, Turtle said. I guess you hate me now. Turtle, no, everyone makes mistakes. But why didn't you use your magic to make them forgive you and love you? Turtle's face twisted and looked even more sad and guilty than it had already. He gulped. I kind of, sort of, did. Don't tell anyone. Nobody can know about my magic. You did? Anemone half asked, half laughed. You are such a hypocrite. You were yelling at me not to use my magic on other dragons, but you have done it yourself? I know, Turtle said quietly. He stopped walking for a second. I swore to myself to never control others again after that spell. I needed a second chance. I always knew I had to keep my magic a secret until the right time, but after what happened with our sisters, I thought there would never be a right time, and that I needed to stay hidden in plain sight, unmemorable and unnoticed. Of course, I couldn't do that without making a fresh start. Anemone couldn't comprehend it. Why would Turtle want to go unnoticed? They were animi, and the two most powerful beings in the universe. Then Anemone remembered. Bad things were always happening to her because she was an animus. Blister sought to control her. Of course, Anemone could always kill Blister and rule the world, but that was starting to seem like less and less of an option. Anemone had always sought attention and power, and so of course she wouldn't keep her magic a secret. But before her Talons of Power ceremony, when her magic was discovered, Anemone hadn't known she was magical. That was weird, but they had already started walking again and reached Shark's room. Okay, Turtle, we're about to talk to the most high-ranking general in the Sea-Wing army, so please try to put your sob stories behind you. All right, Turtle said. Anemone pushed open the door to Shark's quarters and took a small step inside. The room was completely dark, with only a small window to let in the last rays of sunlight. Uncle Shark, she asked, are you here? Shark's room of the summer palace was absolutely enormous. After all, he was the Queen's brother and the commanding general of the Sea-Wing army. Uncle Shark. What is it? A voice snapped. It sounded cranky and tired. It's your niece and nephew, Anemone replied. Anemone and Turtle. Oh, Anemone, the voice groaned. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something to help, but the voice trailed off. Something like a small whimper echoed through the cavernous room. I'm sorry. My sister, she's not in the best mental state right now. She hasn't been for the past, ever since her husband died. I tried to tell her that you may not be ready. She doesn't listen. Not even to her own little brother. Shark, it's not your fault, Anemone said. We can fix this. You, Turtle, and I. We can take Blister down. But Anemone, I thought you were worried about your soul, the voice replied. Anemone was. Of course, she could cast a spell to protect her soul. But she remembered that even if her soul was 100% safe, that would not change the terrible things she could do. It was safer to follow Turtle's plan, for now, at least. I'm not going to use my magic. You'll see, we have a plan. Show him, Turtle. I know we have night vision, but can somebody please light up their scales so that I can read the scroll? Turtle asked. Weak little turtle. Can't see in the dark like a normal sea ray. Anemone lit all her scales up as bright as she could. Ack, ack, too bright, too bright! Turtle cried. Anemone sighed, rolled her eyes, and toned down the brightness. There, that's good. Uncle, can you come out now so we can show you our plan? Turtle asked. Shark stumbled out from the shadows. He looked sad. Anemone felt sorry for him. He didn't even like Blister, and yet his sister, Queen Coral, forced him to fight for Blister every day. It was unfair. Anemone wanted so badly to take Blister down using her magic, but still, she understood that it would be safer to go with Turtle's plan. All right, what are you two getting my hopes up for? Don't worry, we have a plan. We can free ourselves from Blister's control. We just need your help, Turtle said, more confidently than Anemone had expected. Wait, isn't pulling the army out of the war a bit drastic? I mean, I don't particularly like the war, but he trailed off. Our alliance with Blister protects us. If we split off our alliance with her, our 20-year peace treaty with the Sandwings and Mudwings would end, and I fear both tribes will immediately attack us. You think Blister protects us? Anemone spat. Surely you recall the Battle of the Sky Kingdom. Shark's face froze. In a quiet voice, he said, Yes, of course I remember. It was our most devastating battle in the war. And do you remember why it started? Turtle added. Because Blister's Sandwings initiated conflict on the southeastern coast of the Sky Kingdom. My army was called in for support. There was a huge battle going on. The Mudwing army had already been called in to support Blister's forces. I remember it all too well. That record was flying through the air. I ordered my troops to pull out because of the Mudwings, who literally have the most powerful army in Peria, couldn't win the battle. Who could, but it was too late. The entire Seaman platoon was destroyed. I was friends with many of the soldiers. I forgot to say goodbye to them. How did the soul survive with the battle? Tell me, Uncle, you saw Mudwings and Seeings dying in battle by the dozens, but did you see any of Blister's Sandwings, who you say protect us? Anemone questioned. Shark's eyes grew wide. I suppose not. I was too wrapped up in grieving for the lost Sea Wings that I hardly thought about the fact that there were no dead Sandwings to grieve for. Exactly! Anemone snapped, her voice growing louder. Turtle managed to scrounge up some old battle reports that say Blister's Sandwings hardly helped our army in the battle at all. Anemone snatched the battle report out of Turtle's claws and laid it out on the floor. Shark's eyes widened. Do you still think that our alliance with Blister protects us? Well, no, I guess. You know that everything you're saying right now is extremely treasonous, right? Uncle Shark reminded her. How is saying bad things about Blister treasonous? Anemone roared. She's not our queen. She's not even the real queen of the Sandwings. All she does is stay in our territory and hide from her sisters. Anemone paused, literally gasping for breath in her rage. Anemone, don't overdo it, Turtle mumbled out of the corner of his mouth. Anemone forced herself to calm down. She knew that this pure rage wasn't good, and it might make her want to use her magic again. But she was angry at Blister regardless. Anemone had zero respect for her and didn't care if everyone else knew it or if they didn't. Anemone took a deep breath. Uncle Shark, I understand. You're worried that no one else agrees with you. But really, that couldn't be further from the truth. If you fight for Blister on the battlefield every day and still don't like her, imagine how everyone else must feel. We all feel the same way as you. Don't be scared. Shark 2 took a deep breath. Okay, I understand. I'll pull my troops out of the war until we can figure things out. I can also tell Blister that you're not ready to use your magic in the war yet. Thank you, Anemone and Turtle. You've helped me out. You've helped all of us out, really. You're heroes to the Sea-Wing tribe. Now, let's hope your mother agrees. Alright everyone, sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger, but this video was already a tad long, so I'd best be going. Subscribe to see part 3 of this What If. Bye!